It's finally here. This is what I've been talking about for months and months and months. You can go through and look at all the videos that I've made. This is the point in time in which I say that things really start to matter for ICP. So we're gonna take a look at the chart. Obviously with this type of price movement, a ton has changed over the past couple of days, which is why I've started making so many more videos regarding ICPs, because things are really changing quite quickly. And so I wanna keep you up to date with the super important information as it comes out immediately. But first off, for those of you who have been the ICP faithful and have been holding for months and months, and were even buying when we broke those key levels of support down even below $3, congratulations. I mean, this is obviously a fantastic move, and you should feel really good that conviction has paid off here. So let's go ahead. We'll jump right on in. First off, we can see the crypto bubbles, another red day, except for just a select few, ICP being one of them, which is looking really, really nice. Almost 37% up on the day. We're technically green on the week, and this is largely held by a couple of major gainers. We've got this AI agent, or I think it's called D-Agent AI. You can see we've got ZK, we've got Dash, we've got DCR, we've got ZEC, and then of course ICP as well, up 152% just in the week, which is pretty wild stuff. Basically the rest of the market is red here. Obviously we've got a couple greens here and there, but you know, we're seeing ICP go up 152% in a week, while things like Bitcoin's down 5%, Solana's down almost 13%, ETH is right behind my picture here, but it's down 10%. I mean, really, really crazy stuff. So it's great to see that we are seeing such a strong move from ICP. Hopefully this continues, and if we see the rest of the market start to turn around, we can see ICP do even better, because you know the rest of the market starts to get bullish at that point. So we're going to be spending a decent bit of time looking at the ICP chart today, because I want to show you several different things that are very, very important here. And first off, let's kind of replay what we've seen over the past several days. So obviously we started to see price pick up a little bit. We were getting rejected in this kind of lower liquidity zone. We did see, you know, kind of a retrace back. We did hit this key level of support that we had kind of been rejected on prior to the break. And then we saw a really strong move up almost immediately through this high liquidity zone. And then we actually kept pushing up and up and up, getting rejected at the higher liquidity zone, and then coming back and kind of settling on this like $5 range. We did momentarily drop below it. It did look like this turned into a short-term level of resistance, but then we did break through. We did that little bit of a retest, and now we've been moving up and to the right basically, which is really good to see. Now, of course, you can see we came in, it did look like we were going to get rejected in this higher liquidity zone. We've been rejected in this zone so many different times over the past couple months. I'll actually zoom this out a little bit. And so this was slightly concerning, but then we saw us move right on through this zone, and now we are well above it. You could see here, again, kind of an initial little bit of a rejection showing at the $6.80 range, which is kind of the first key resistance after what I'm calling the breakout zone. We did come back down a little bit. We did a bit of this retest here, not quite touching it, but getting very close to this kind of high level here. And then of course, now we have broken, retested, and also are seeming to find support at this $6.80 range, feeling pretty comfortable at the $7 range. Now, of course, we want to see all of this continue. If we start to zoom out into like the 4 hour, you will see kind of, you know, slightly less detail here. You could see the, you know, signs of rejection here, and then a really nice move through. So we want to see this close, break, and hold above the $6.80 range. Again, establish some support. Look at kind of what we've been seeing here. It's very consistent and very steady moves to the upside, which is exactly what we want to see, and we want to make sure that that continues. Now, of course, RSI is getting into that overbought range, so it is very, very strong right now. We're seeing it sitting at about 80. We are also getting very close to pushing the tops of the Bollinger Bands. This is generally, you know, can be a little bit scary, but again, similar type of thing to what we saw over this range. We just need to see a little bit of some consolidation, let some of these metrics kind of retrace, recover a little bit, stay strong like we have seen basically through these, you know, all of these moves basically. And then we'll continue and make another move back to the upside. This is really, really strong structure of what we're seeing. It's a nice structured bid going up and to the right, and that's exactly what we want to see. So as long as we continue to see various things like this continue, like and kind of on this level of consistency, I'm feeling really good about what we're seeing. Now, let's zoom out even further and we'll talk about kind of exactly what's going on. So again, same type of thing. You can see kind of a little bit, but again, the structure gets more and more blurry the kind of the wider out we go. But the biggest thing that we could see that is super important here is, like I was talking about even just a couple minutes ago, look at all the rejections that we have seen at this range. That is why I'm calling this the breakout zone. So technically this daily candle has not closed, so we have not technically broken out above this zone quite yet, but assuming that this daily candle does close and ideally closes above the $6.80 range, I think we're going to be looking pretty good. And so this gives us a chance to kind of look at some various different things. So the first thing that I wanted to show you is what are kind of some next levels. Now, obviously the $6.80 level was the first one. It seems that we, at least so far, have moved fairly easily above that. We'll have to see again if we can hold it on more of the macro level daily. The other thing I want to show you here is on the daily, we are well outside the Bollinger Bands, as well as the RSI. So based on these metrics, this move may not be the most kind of like, organic or stable move, at least on the longer term type of perspective. We could very easily see another crash back down into this range. That is entirely possible, and it is something that we should be prepared for if that is something that, you think could be a possibility. Now, for me, at least, I have been and remain to be a ICP long-term holder. I was buying down even in this kind of sub $3, sub $2 or sub $4, sub $3 range. And so this is something that, I want to see this continue to move back to the upside. And I think we're seeing exactly that. Even if we see a little bit of a retrace, ideally preference would be to stay above the $6.40 range. But even if we come back down even to like the $5 range, not the best, but as long as we could take another run, we know that this level can be broken, again, assuming it kind of holds for a little bit of time. Now, going further out from that, we've got a couple of different things to look at here. You will see a lot of this is actually kind of prior to, let's call it March, when we saw a lot of these price targets. We've actually not been up to these levels for a long period of time. Now, the first thing that I want to show you is this green line. Now, somebody, I would say somewhat accurately called out in the comments, because I was identifying this as a potential trend line that we have seen kind of coming down in the past. Now, yes, we do only have 2 points here, so this may not be a super strong trend line, but this is something that we should pay very close attention to. And the reason why we should pay even closer attention to it over the next maybe day or two is if price continues to move like it has been for ICP, we could be getting to a point where we see kind of a confluence of a support at the $8.50-ish cent range, as well as this descending trend line. And so if we were to see that, we could potentially get rejected here, at which point that would be a little bit scary in the sense that we're probably going to see some level of pullback here. It's more a matter of how far rather than if we do, in my opinion. Of course, I could always be wrong. I would love to be wrong with that type of claim, but that's just kind of rationally what I see happening. So moving along after that, you can see that is kind of like the next kind of confluence point, I guess we could call it. Even if we wait a couple of weeks to get there, we're still going to be kind of very close on these kind of back-to-back. So this will be a difficult level to break. After that, of course, we do have kind of that $10 level. The even 5s and 10s are usually a decent psychological level from there. Also, obviously, you can see there are a couple other kind of more minor levels of support. I did just give kind of the biggest levels because I didn't want to put 1,000 lines on here. But you'll see we basically have a pretty clear path all the way up to about $13, $14. And then from there, I stopped kind of doing as many. From there, we could just kind of naturally look at the swing highs here. So, $15.50, maybe even like $16.25, maybe $17. And then up here, we're going to be looking at the highs at like the $21 range. Now, the last thing that I wanted to take a quick look at here before we kind of end the video is we've got some fib retracement information. I think it shows us kind of the path to a $57 ICP. So I want to show you that really quick just before we round up the video here. So I'm going to use this low just because this wick seems a bit extreme, but if you want to use this wick, you of course can. This is something where if we do use this wick, let's actually go ahead and we'll use it just because I do see that it gives us the 236 and 382 ranges, which are actually pretty dead on. And then we can also see here We've got some action going on at the 0.5. We're seeing action at the 0.618, and then of course we've got action at the 786, and then of course 1. So we'll actually go down and use this swing low because it does actually appear like it might fit some of these things a little bit better. Now, we'll go from there and we will show you what kind of things look like. So obviously, we've got $4.50 was kind of the first range. This is at the very top of that high liquidity zone that we've been identifying. $6.67 is actually kind of a midpoint between the high liquidity zone that we were talking about and that kind of first level of resistance after the breakout of that range. So kind of a little bit of a midpoint there. We are currently holding above that, which is good to see. We'll hope that continues. You'll also see a lot of these others actually line up quite nicely with some of these other resistance levels that we've identified. So the next one would be the $8.37 range. This is also coincidentally that confluence point we were talking about. So again, really kind of maybe adding to the claim that we should be very careful if we see price get to this range. And then from there, we have the $10 level, which again, psychological number. And then here we also have the 786 here at like that $12.50 level. From there, we are back to the most recent swing high at about $15.56. And then from there, we start to look at fib extensions. So let's zoom out a little bit. We can see a couple of different things going on. So the first level, the 1618 extension range, would get us to about $24.50. This is actually above what we saw as kind of the recent swing high a little bit further back in March of 2024. So that would be a pretty good kind of first and initial move here. And then after that, we'd be looking at the 2618, $38.85, and then 36818 gives us back to about $53, and then 4236 is actually at 62 instead of that 57 that I was talking about, because again, I drew this kind of retrace off of the wick rather than kind of that firm level of support that we had found. So that is how we got to all of these numbers. Pretty cool, type of thing to think about, that we could be looking at a $60 ICP and kind of like the max extension range of this fib scenario. I don't think that that's really going to be super possible, if I'm being completely honest. I do think 2618 doable, 3618 possible. It really just depends on kind of the wider market. A lot of this to me is kind of more zooming out. We see ICP's momentum continue to kind of do what it has been doing. We also see ICP's momentum kind of start to bleed into the rest of the market. The rest of the market continues to do well, and ICP continues to either stay level or even overperform the rest of the market, unlike what we have seen for many or much of the past year, or even a little bit longer than that. So those are the big things I'm looking very, very closely at. The other thing that I wanted to do and just kind of throw in a quick reminder is, this is Fabio Zero to Hero. If you are a ICP diehard fan, I'm sure you know who he is, but this is just a really strong reminder that I wanted to point to all of you, which is the majority of the ICP community is celebrating the recent pump. Here's why you should not celebrate now. Last year in March, ICP was trading at $21 without Caffeine AI, Utopia, advanced AI models running in Canister smart contracts, Chain Fusion, ICP Ninja. If ICP manages to attract big institutions and a ton of new retail, I think it is possible. If you tried caffeine, you know why, then we should start celebrating at much higher levels. ICP will win because it's more than a blockchain. ICP equals the world computer. Now, this is, of course, just showing the fear and greed index of kind of where we're at on ICP. I don't really have much to add to this. I think that this is a really good comment. The only thing I would throw into this is, usually this isn't going to be a straight line, right? I do think that we will see kind of at a lower level. We're probably going to see a lot of various kind of like bumps in the road and dips along the way. So if we'll get rid of this, just kind of clean things up a little bit. But like, it would not surprise me if we go and we see a pump to this $8.50 level, maybe get all the way, kind of rejected back to here, maybe even back to here. Even worst case, maybe we fall back into this kind of range trading zone here. I think all of it is possible. So while I do completely agree with the sentiment that we are just getting started, and I think that we could go so much higher from here, don't expect it to be a straight line. Don't expect it to happen by the end of the year. I mean, it could, right? But I just, having expectations like that, I think, are what leads people to the disappointment and the whining and all of this type of stuff that we have seen over the past several months. And so Just want to throw that out as a reminder, as well as a slight word of warning and caution. If you are, of course, interested in trading ICP, I do have that link in the description to Blofin, where they do have that really special ICP limited time bonus, where you can, if you get signed up, win up to 25 ICP for free. Really nice type of reward and incentive there. Of course, if you do believe in some of the upper bounds of ICP, that could be a quite meaningful amount of money, right? So feel free to do that. If you are interested, of course, make sure that you understand what you're doing, understand the risks and benefits and all this type of stuff of leverage trading. Is an affiliate link also, as a disclaimer. All this type of stuff does, of course, go to help support the channel. And I do really appreciate all of your time, attention, interaction, all this type of stuff. The ICP community is, of course, fantastic. And I feel really good to see the price is finally starting to give us some of the stuff that we've been waiting so long for. So anyway, thank you all so much for tuning in. Any comments, questions, anything like that, drop those in the comment section below. If you liked it, you all know what to do. Really appreciate it. Thanks, and we'll see you in the next one.